Alright guys, this week we're going to discuss the chilling mystery of the location of the Salem witch trial hangings in the New England colonies in 1692 as a part of the ongoing investigation to answer the question, does history matter? When did they come? What did they believe? How did they govern themselves? How did these things affect the horrifying reality that was the Salem witch trials?
She beat me.
In 1692, a pair of young girls began exhibiting strange behaviors like having convulsions, which raised suspicions among the townspeople that led them to believe they were influenced by witches. Since these girls lived in Massachusetts, where Puritans dominated the society and government, every little disturbance, including the fits and convulsions that the girls displayed, were actively searched for any signs of supernatural ties. The Puritans immediately jumped to the worst conclusion possible: witchcraft. Generations of mistrust and degradation had caused the mentality of the people to move further away from legitimate reasoning and closer to a cynical wariness of all who claimed to be a willing member of their society. This was clearly exhibited in the Halfway Covenant, which removed the foundational rule of a conversion experience in order to be a part of the church and vote. It was this suspicion that caused the higher-ranking members, such as John Willard, Reverend George Burroughs, George Jacob Sr., and John Proctor, to begin a series of questioning and trying that left 3 women, Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne, with arrest warrants, and eventually led not only to their deaths, but the incrimination of hundreds of others. In the society, the hierarchy of worst to least accusations were idolatry, witchcraft, blasphemy, murder, poisoning, and bestiality.
Shane Dawson.
Wait, what? Like, I don't understand. What? Why? Like, oh, they're just too. Oh my god.
Yeah, just blasphemy.
Blasphemy. Feel free to go murder a bunch of people, but if you say God stinks,
Off with his head.
People always wonder why they could kill so many people during this time, but here's why.
they're
crazy.
They're all insane. They're all insane. But like at the same time, they weren't tolerant people at all. Obviously, toleration interfered with their understanding of moral liberty. Just for y'all's reference.
Isn't that just common decency, though?
I mean, well, the whole basis of their beliefs was based on proving people wrong, not proving people right. It started with the idea that the Church of England's ways were wrong. A true believer wasn't supposed to need an intermediary between him and God, and he certainly wasn't supposed to be tolerating things like ornate decorations, the horror, or any other like unnecessary, non-necessarily directly tied to religion. It was pure a 10 or nothing.
I mean,
I'm so funny.
Hear that, ladies and gentlemen?
are you predestination? Because you're the heaven I'm trying to get to.
Oh my god! The nature of these practices pretty much made them want to all separate from the Church of England or to want to massively reform it from the inside out. Either way, they were pretty less than thrilled with the way the church had operated up to that point. So they must have felt somewhat better about their definitely, well, I mean, not so fancy new church that they had in America, but that didn't really last very long. For one, they weren't excited about the lifestyle about the Native Americans, and they were even less thrilled whenever the women got into it too.
Rip Van Hutchinson, in the arms of the angel. Man. If God already determines whether you will be saved or not, then why wouldn't you just make the most of it?
I would rather have him hand select me to die than hear that singing again.
I'm offended.
That being said, let's get into the history of how the New England colonies first began. In the year 1692, the famous Mayflower touched shore on what would become the first and most famous colony. Plymouth, which would later become part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, was established by the Pilgrims soon after they first touched down, after almost 2 months of sailing. The group then decided to draw up a social contract. The Mayflower Compact established a local government and obliged the Pilgrims to obey the law of this government until they could obtain a new patent. Many historians consider it to be the beginning of American democracy.
What's on a boat?
No, but just imagine the poor people like me that have awful seasickness.
What's the point?
The Mayflower Compact, duh.
It's a piece of paper. Literally just a piece of paper. that would determine how they were organized for the rest of history.
Only temporarily, though, but it's fine.
I don't think that's worth it.
Well, it is kind of one of the most influential documents in U.S. history.
Are any of the most influential documents of U.S. history still holding up?
So not worth it.
Self-rule was established in 1639 through the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, the first written constitution to create a government which followed Hooker's approach and gave the right to vote to all freemen.
So now we're at Proctor's Ledge, the site where numerous innocent women were hung in 1692.
We got permission to be here, though, don't we?
Yeah, we got permission. Yeah. Wait, so why were they hung?
Because they were too spooky.
Actually, they were hung because they were witches.
But all women are I'm sorry, you said witches, my bad.
So these witchcraft accusations came about when the wave of mass hysteria hit. A special court convened to listen to all the cases, but sadly these innocent people were killed.
Wait, so you're saying, like, if everyone was just, like, going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And the world was ending,
Yeah.
I could just say, hey, you're a witch, and you'd be put to death?
I'm not a witch though.
Well,
I mean, you could have fooled me.
I'm just gonna call some like random old English names and see if any ghosts respond to me. Hey, Sarah! Sarah! They're Puritans. At least one of them is gonna be named Sarah.
Okay. While she's searching, we're gonna pull up this.
Hey, Sarah.
The first victim of the Salem witch trials was an Indian slave named Tituba, who, when accused of witchcraft by 9-year-old Elizabeth Parris and 11-year-old Abigail Williams, admitted to the crime.
Wait, 2 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids.
That's all it took?
No, but, like, imagine how, like, threatening those 2 kids must have been to that poor woman, and to make her admit to a crime that she didn't commit.
Oh man, I guess they just crept up, with their creepy dolls.
Admit to being a witch or I'll not eat my vegetables. I'll tear my dress if you don't do what I say. Gasp! That'd be horrific! The horror!
Hey, it really would be. Most of the immigrants from England to the New England colonies were not only farmers, but weavers and tailors.
Oh.
So?
Yeah, so what?
Didn't y'all know that they came from one of the most economically advanced areas before suffering from a dramatic decrease in cloth trade? That's why they moved. They turned to fishing and timber, even though the economy was mostly focused on family farms.
Oh.
Tituba, coerced by the influential Puritans, decided to help the church weed out more people involved in witchcraft, an act that would result in the incrimination of about 150 men and women in the New England colonies. It is worth noting that New England colonies were theocratic societies, where the lines between the church and the state were blurred.
Dude, I vibe with this place. This place is cool. I like this place.
What do you
River.
mean? There's literally poison ivy, like, right
Greenery.
there.
Minor details.
So, guys, fun fact, since we're on a river, a lot of the economy was actually based off of fishing, as well as timber. As you can see, there are quite a few trees, so that makes sense. I would too.
I'm babysitting.
You're babysitting?
That's why we need a babysitter.
You're right.
You want to crawl in there?
No.
Uh-huh.
The second victim of the Salem witch trials was a young woman by the name of Bridget Bishop, on the grounds of wearing too fancy of clothing and having been married 3 times. While she previously claimed innocence, the government eventually put her to death by hanging, along with another 13 women and 6 men. It is worth noting that this might not have been too far from normalcy in these societies' social patterns and makeup. Disrespectful servants, errant husbands, and disobedient wives were subject to civil penalties, and rebellious children could even be put to death. However, one thing that sticks out is that the laws also provided a degree of protection for women by punishing abusive men and compelling fathers to support their children.
Dang, okay, guess you can't be too careful about what you wear. I hope they like yellow. Wait, so what happened with this whole, like, ravine situation?
Well, there's no written thing saying that it was here, but actually, there are rumors from the townspeople, as well as a map, saying that this very place is Galilee.
Hey, Widget! It's your boy!
Oh my gosh, you had to go say something dumb?
Well, if there's angry ghosts, that's better. Let's go take a look.
And look for what?
I don't know, a skeleton, dead body, maybe like a decaying pinky finger.
And nobody try to do that, you think?
Well, this did happen in 1790. I don't think this place had a lot of action.
Okay, let's go then.
Now let's just get this over with. I don't like these ghost vibes.
Go first.
Fine, I'll go first.
That's
Get
new.
this over with. Going first. Let's hope I don't die. Gosh. Oh, okay.
Move!
Oh my gosh! Are you okay? Are you okay?
I'm gonna be more careful than her.
This is the scene. Get a creepy vibe. So, where are we gonna start?
You realize there's a really big river right where we're supposed to look, right?
Nobody wants to go for a swim in the very clean river?
I'll pass. Another great hunt with a dirty river.
Man, the odds were really stacked against us.
Hey, witches, we're giving up!
All right, we'll probably see you next time, unfortunately.
We have uncovered the Puritans' reasons for migration, government, and especially their religion, and how they affected how they would find their downfall in the Salem witch trials. However, in the end, no one really knows exactly where the Salem witch hangings took place, because there's not enough solid evidence beyond local myths to prove that they happened on Proctor's Ledge. For now, the mystery of the location of the Salem witch trials continues to elude us, and will forever remain unsolved.
Okay, why do I keep doing this to myself?
Oh, you know it's...
I hate ghosts, I hate witches, goodbye!
That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe.
And
all
follow
the
us on
stuff.
our social media.
Follow us on our social media at non-existent. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.